All right, so this is the presentation that I did make at the National Outdoor Recreation Conference, as well as the Mountain West Trail Summit. So it is a case study in planned growth and community development through outdoor recreation assets. And this, again, is just a case study on the community-driven effort that White Pine County and the communities within it have made to try to see economic growth and quality of life increase. So just a quick introduction. I am the Director of Tourism for White Pine County. So that covers communities within the county. I also sit on the Travel Nevada Marketing Committee. I'm also the president of the Nevada Outdoor Business Coalition Board, the president of the Pony Express Territory, which is a regional marketing consortium that covers the whole Highway 50 corridor. I'm also a member of the White Pine Main Street Board, the Great Basin Trails Alliance. I coach the junior mountain bike team and also sit on the museum board. So even though tourism very much is the tip of the spear for economic development. And so there's a number of different hats that are worn when you're in this position. In case anybody's never been to Ely or White Pine County before, it's the green star that's on the map there. We are at the eastern end of Nevada, right by the Utah border. We're at the intersection of three main, so Highway 50, which is known as the loneliest road in America, Highway 6, which is the actual loneliest road in America, and Highway 93, which runs north and south. So the joke when I moved out here was, do you like to drive 4 hours? Because that's what it's going to take to get anywhere. We are the most remote community in the lower 48. We're so remote, we're not even considered rural. We're actually frontier. So even though we're not really close to anybody in particular, we are 4 hours from Las Vegas, Cedar City, St. George, Salt Lake City, Twin Falls. And if you want to drive a little bit further, 5 hours will get you over to Lake Tahoe and Reno and Carson City. So we're kind of central in the West. And I always like to say, you kind of have to drive through Ely at least twice to get to wherever you're going. One of the things that's going to play in a little bit later into this presentation, and I just want you all to know, Nevada has a reputation of being just sagebrush valleys and dry desert landscapes. In White Pine County, that's not the case. We are the most mountainous county in the most mountainous state, so we are surrounded and of peaks that are 10,000 feet and above. And really, they're more 11, 12, and 13,000 foot peaks when you get out here. So a great asset to have and something that we're going to be leaning into for this kind of like rebranding. So a quick history on Ely and White Pine County. Originally, it was an outpost stop on one of the routes to California during the gold rush. And after that, the Pony Express route developed running right through the county and along Highway 50. The first transcontinental telegraph put the Pony Express out of business just 2 years later. That ran almost the exact same route through White Pine County. And then the Lincoln Highway, which is America's first transcontinental highway connecting San Francisco and Annapolis, Maryland, on the country's first road trip. And so that came through. So there was a lot of first in transportation and communication that came through Ely before copper was discovered in 1903. And that was right at the time where electricity was starting to become more common in homes across America, especially in the bigger cities like New York and Washington, D.C., Chicago, places like that. And it was Ely copper that was stretched into the wire that electrified the nation. To do that, there had to be a number of people recruited to the area. So this was right at the time when Europe was about to descend into World War I. And so there was a lot of people that were wanting to immigrate over to America to be a part of this great American experience, this melting pot. And Ely did become one of the most culturally diverse communities in the country, as well as one of the most important ones because of this push to electrify a nation. And then in 1978, and this is a common story across the country, whether you are from a coal mining community in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, which is where I'm originally from, whether, automobile industry up in the Midwest, whether it was the logging industry in the Pacific Northwest, our copper industry busted and the mine shut down and 2,000 people up and left. And this is really what makes a community start to deteriorate, is the loss of people power And these are your teachers, these are your nurses, these are the people that are essentially volunteering for coaches and shopping at your businesses midweek and things like that. So that loss of people power, any community that experiences that exodus is going to be left with a particular trauma and a particular set of problems of being told, hey, pack it up, you're the next ghost town in the making, which is what Ely was told. Now, it's normal for people that are experiencing, or communities experiencing any kind of trauma like that to go into survival mode. And that is something that humans do across the board. And honestly, in White Pine County, this community does survival mode better than anybody else I've ever seen. It's amazing how the community kept its fabric and stayed tight-knit with the remaining people that were left here. But it's not a total sob story because the community had a lot of assets and a lot of things that it was doing at first in the state that became its cornerstones for its tourism. And tourism became what the community leaned into when mining was no longer an option. And so the community started promoting itself as a historic mining town with a train and a national park. And those are two great anchors right there. And we'll dive into those a little bit more. But in 1999, Ely was the first community in Nevada to use murals as an economic development strategy. And you would think Reno or Las Vegas would have gotten to that first, but it was actually Ely as a way to say, we're going to tell our story of all the cultures and the contributions that were made from this community. And we're going to put it up on the walls of all of our buildings in the downtown, like the pages of a storybook. And it's either going to keep community pride high, or we are going to be the prettiest ghost town in Nevada. And thankfully, it kept community pride high, and we're certainly not dead yet. So another benefit of kind of going to sleep for so many years, say from 78 to 2004, is that the community really hadn't been altered. If you still have your historic downtown or buildings that have kept its time period architecture, that's a benefit. That's an asset. When a lot of places bulldozed their buildings and put up strip malls and generic boxy architecture, Ely and White Pine County still has kept its character. Now it's run down in some areas. It could use a fresh coat of paint. It's certainly not looking as good as it did back in the 50s, but it can because it's still there, and that's the key. Great Basin National Park is absolutely amazing. Having a national park in your area is such a draw. And if you've never been to Great Basin before, it's one of the least visited. So it still has that original national park vibe where you're not in lines with people to take selfies at overlooks. It's got the caves, it's got the peaks, it's got bristlecone pines, and it's got the dark skies. So there's things to do above ground, underground, daytime and nighttime. And then for an area that was peaking for so long, there's a lot of major legacy events. The fastest car races in the country on open road racing, the original enduro mountain bike race, the original rodeo in Nevada. There's just a whole long list in our 250 events that we have annually of record-breaking and first. And then through all of that, in 2004, the mine reopened. And so our copper mine is going again, and we also have 2 gold mines going in the county. But as you know, mining doesn't exactly play the same role in communities as it did back in the day. There's certainly great partners, and we work with them, and they support outdoor recreation. And it's actually the outdoor recreation and quality of life that we are nurturing that is attracting the best and the brightest employees for their operation. And so what we're trying to find is that balance of a diversified portfolio of income that's coming into the community. And so when I came in back in 2018, there was promise of trail expansions and downtown renovations and all of these big idea projects that. And that, again, is why I said in the beginning that this is a community-driven project. This isn't top-down by any means. And that is why I feel like it's being successfully implemented, is because the community has been involved in this in the entire time. And let's go ahead and jump into that process. Real quick, because this is going to come up in the end so you can kind of see the growth. In 2017, the year before I got here, visitor spending throughout the entire county annually was $40 million. And that sounds like a lot, but compared to the rest of the state, it's actually relatively low. And that has to do with empty buildings, a lot of assets and experiences that are free that you can just go out and do. And so that was kind of a realization that, you know, there was a lot more potential for tourism to impact the community by bringing in this new money. So just keep that in the back of your mind. 2017, $40 million in visitor spending. So how do we build momentum? How do we improve our role, our identity, our position in the tourism field or industry in the West? How do we build that momentum? And so this is what I've learned over the years working as the marketing manager at Visit Carson City, the director of tourism here, also running recreational programs in Lake Tahoe in my 20s. There's a number of different experiences that have culminated into learning this method right here. And so I feel like it's scalable, and I believe that it could also work for your communities. So anytime you're doing any kind of rebranding, and we're not changing anything here, you know, all we're doing is we're looking at how can we be a better version of ourselves, you know, and that starts with listening to the community. You have to go in and you have to engage your community who has been vested in it through the rough times, who's kept it alive through the rough times and is still there to hopefully support you through the good times. And so you ask the normal questions. What do you love about being here? What are your favorite things about living in White Pine County? Why did you stick it out? And, you know, we got things like the open spaces, the mountains, the fact that you can leave from your front door and access outdoor recreation. People loved their community. They loved the feeling of being able to come out and liking their neighbors and enjoying going to events. And they didn't want to lose that. They liked the family vibe that, you know, kids can ride their bikes safely in the streets and it's really fun. And so, all right, awesome. That sounds great. I can get down with that. What do you guys really want to share? All right, well, we love our history. We love our contribution to the community or to the country. You know, we want to share that. We want people to know how important we were, because honestly, 30 years isn't that long of a time. There are communities that have been bust for a lot longer that don't remember what it was like during the good times. And the residents that stayed, they were like, we remember when there was music in the streets and every one of these buildings was open. We want that again. We want our sports teams to be packed with kids and be competitive across the state, you know? So, okay, cool. I can get down with that. This is awesome. Now, here's the big question. What do you not want to share? All right, well, hands started going up. Well, there's this wilderness area out behind this mountain. There's a canyon and a creek. We really would prefer you not talk about that. I promise. All right, well, there's a hot spring over there. We kind of don't want people, oh, I promise, we won't talk about that. There's plenty of great stuff that you do want to share, which is awesome. I can work with that. And then, of course, and you have to respect that. If the community tells you, hey, man, this is off limits, then it's off limits. And then, of course, what are you afraid of? And we could just sum that up with massive change. You know, I don't want to wake up one day and not recognize my neighbor. I don't want to not be able to afford to live here. I don't want to be cut off from my favorite trailhead. And so these are things that you put on that list of when you start marketing and when you start putting things out there, you are in alignment with what the community and your partners have told you that they're comfortable with. Now, you're always going to push the limits a little bit to see where the line is, but you always have that baseline of this is what I'm okay with promoting and what our messaging is going to be and what it's not going to be. So I think when you can go into any community and say, hey, we're not going to change anything, we're just going to try to be a better version of ourselves, it's going to be received a lot better than, all right, you guys, it's time for the hard work of changing the direction of this ship. So that would be my recommendation of the initial engagement of your community. So we set the goals. We went back, we listened to all of the feedback, and instead of saying, hey, we're a historic mining community with a train and a national park, how about I think that we're actually a four-season mountain community with a deep connection to Nevada's and America's history, an appreciation for the arts and diverse cultures, We have major events and the best outdoor recreation in the state. Does this sound like you? Does this sound like something that describes our area? And they're like, oh, yeah, this is totally us. All right, cool. So from here on out, if you're ever stuck in an elevator with anybody and they have no clue about Ely or White Pine County or the area around us, describe us as this: four-season mountain community, history, arts, events, recreation. Go. All right, sweet. Well, what's the goal of this? How are we gonna how are we going to know that this is a success or not? Obviously we're going to look at room tax going up. We're going to look at, visitor spending going up. But the end game is we want planned population growth. When you're developing and you have a quality of life like we have, people are going to want to know about it. But you just don't want any old person to come out to your town. You want the right person to come out to your town. You want the right person to resonate with the values of your community that have been set in those listening sessions. And so that that if they like how you're marketing the community, if they love outdoor rec and events that are small town and you feel like part of the community, then you know that there's going to be a match. If you go out and you just start marketing yourself completely out of alignment with who you are, and that population growth starts happening, that's when you start getting into trouble because it's not in alignment with your community's values. So we want people to move out here. We need nurses and biologists and everybody. I mean, we've got amazing, good paying jobs out here, but we need the people to fill them. And we want those people to understand what that white pine quality of life is and love it and resonate with it and want to be it. So when we go into our marketing, everything that we do is purposeful. The images that we put out, the words, the headlines, the stories, all of that are to resonate with that particular person that aligns with our values. And so that starts with new images and videos. If you're in a community that is jump starting yourself, put the investment in bringing in a photographer to get new images, new videos, have people in them, action-packed, not landscapes, not statics, put stuff in where it's like there's energy and movement. And I put this image in, and yes, there's no people in it. They're all down in town watching the fireworks. But this was an image we put out pretty soon after I got there. And the community went crazy over it. They were like, oh my God, this is us. And I'm like, yeah, you look amazing. Start acting like it. And every image that's in this presentation has been some new images that we've done over the 6 years that I've been here to try to show that action and excitement. And so after you get all your images and your videos created, and this could be local photographers that do a great job, young videographers that are trying to do like reels and stuff like that. I mean, you can engage a number of different creatives in your area to try to save money. But the next step is starting to find those under and untold stories of people in your communities that are doing really cool things that are tourism related. So for an example, we have the first and only female conductor of a steam engine in the country, and her story is amazing. And so instead of just, we're going to tell the story of Angie and her journey to be the first and only female steam train conductor. I think she's actually like the whole train yard operator now. And so when you go down to the train yard, you're like, oh my God, I've got this relationship with this person. You might even run into her. She feels like a local celebrity, and it brings you down to the train yard to go ahead and ride the train. And this is everything from our head trail builder to the kid who won state rodeo tournament, to anybody who's doing anything cool that is tourism related, the owners of the Art Deco Historic Theater, and that's a way to get your community like feeling good about what they're passionate about and what their contribution is. And so you're celebrating them. And all of this content can go onto your website and social media, which has to continuously be pumping stuff out. And that's a scary thing, but at least with these new images and video and stories that we had, that was the initial content of getting our social media and our website up and going again, and getting people, aware of who we are and what we were doing. The next thing was reaching out to industry partners. And so this, for example, we're branding ourselves as a mountain bike destination. So we invited companies to come out and test their bikes out on our trails. And then that produced content that came from all of those different bike manufacturers that we could then share to our social media, where Giant Bikes was telling the world, hey, we love Ely's trails, as opposed to me telling you how great our trails are. That's my job. You would expect that. So bringing in people across the board of all industry, whether it's fishing, hunting, OHV, mountain biking, camping, big name artists, you name it, just trying to build those connections with the industries that you're in. And then, of course, once you get those industry connections, influencers start reaching out to you, and they want to come out and they want to start telling your story to their followers. And that, again, just starts creating more and more free content for you, people putting stuff out on your behalf that you can then share and go ahead and use. And that's what starts the momentum of the rebranding, is getting those visual and audio and putting it out consistently so it's in people's faces. Now, to continue the kind of consistency of the branding that we were trying to keep as this four-season mountain town with all of these assets within the pillars of arts and outdoor rec and events and history, the tourism department, our office, started offering up certain services to people who were doing tourism related things. So this could be organizations putting on events, all the way up to like the museums and nonprofits that actually had physical attractions. But we offered up marketing support. We would offer up design work for posters or logos, just to make sure that, somebody didn't design a poster that looked like a ransom note, which can happen sometimes with people's varying design skills. So, hiring local designers to keep that consistent across the board. We use our PR company to put out press releases on people's behalf. We keep a giant community calendar on elynevada.net. Again, there's 250 events on it, and that's everything from story time at the library all the way up to the Renaissance Fair, which is the photo from here where we have the fully armored combat knights duking it out in the park. If an event is brand new and it doesn't have a website, then we'll build a landing page for it so it can actually have a URL to promote instead of just a Facebook page. And a lot of events, when they get really outside of the box, insurance companies don't want to insure it, or they want to insure it for a price that's pretty prohibitive. So we do insurance partnerships with our partnership for things like parades and stuff like that. We'll also offer up video and photography services. If you're doing an event or an attraction that we're lacking in those things, then we'll bring somebody in and get some great B-roll for you, produce a video, and then we've both got that. We offer up 3 grant programs: a grant program for organizations who put on events. We offer up a grant program for organizations that manage outdoor recreation facilities. And we also have a grant for capital improvement. So that would be for things like the bigger ticket items like fencing down at the fairgrounds or a new mower for the golf course, things like that. And then we're always offering workshops and community meetings to try to they're almost like TED Talks. They just pitch certain ideas, whether they be around marketing or how to be a better iPhoneographer. We're constantly trying to share our knowledge with the community so they can be better. Now, while all of this is going on, we had some amazing projects come to fruition, at least in their funding or promise of funding. And so there's a grant program in Nevada called SNPLMA. It's Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act. And anytime that public land is sold by the Bureau of Land Management to Clark County for development, so this is Las Vegas, then the profits from that sale go into a grant program where rural communities can apply for recreation projects. And there are over $150 million in recreation and community projects awarded to White Pine County over the 6 years that I've been here. So some of them were kind of a long time in the making, but it includes 2 trail expansion projects that total 50 miles of non-motorized trail and 30 miles of motorized trail. There's going to be the completion of the train track to our northern community named McGill. And so it'll run right into the old depot there and bring in daytime visitors via steam trains to that community. There'll also be a multi-use trail that runs along adjacent to the tracks that'll allow people to ride their bikes or walk to and from back to town safely. an indoor rodeo arena and event center, which is going to really increase our capacity for wintertime events. A massive new community park that is situated right by the high school and aquatic center. A downtown park remodel that's going to include an amphitheater and event center. A bunch of Forest Service campgrounds and trail maintenance, especially in the wilderness areas. And then our national park has a lot of projects around their campgrounds. And then our Ely Shoshone tribe also got a lot of awards for housing projects and expanding their powwow grounds and things like that. So this is a big deal. When you're sitting there in survival mode and you're trying to go from surviving to thriving, having $150 million invested into your community and recreation projects like this is exciting, but it's also scary at the same time because the 2,000 people haven't moved back yet. So do we have the capacity to manage this? Do we have the ability to take care of it? Are there enough people to fill these facilities and use them? So what do we do to plan for this massive expansion right here? Well, the answer to that is you build community around your assets. We realized really quick that just marketing the community with the money that we were bringing in and not investing back into it was going to create that over tourism and that imbalance that makes communities and visitors kind of have that conflict. And again, we're trying to take a planned growth approach to this where we're learning from all of these other communities that have been over touristed. We know the horror stories from some of these places. And so the answer of it is invest in the infrastructure, make a great quality of life for your community, use that visitor dollar to make your locals' lives better. And then if visitors resonate with that quality of life, then they're going to move back and you're not going to have, or they're going to come out and you're not going to have that conflict. So quality of life is our North Star here at tourism. And in 2022, we collected $2 million in room tax. And of that $2 million, we invested 1.1 million of it back into the community, facilities, events, all of the things you could think of to try to make the quality of life for our locals better, making sure that they want to stay, they want to raise their families there. And then as visitors come back multiple times, eventually they want to move in and you have that alignment. Couldn't do it without partners. I mean, our land managers, BLM, Forest Service State Parks, the city, the county, White Pine Main Street, like anybody who is doing something is a partner. There is no outsider or a conflict because what we're doing is all of us together are increasing the pie for everybody. And so doing that where we're working together, again, increases our capacity. We're talking about capacity right now. We also followed the lead of Oak Ridge, Oregon, which probably pushing about 10 years ago, launched an ambassador training program, which I absolutely fell in love with. It celebrated the passions of the community and the experts in the community to where if you were into wildflowers, and you came to Oak Ridge, everybody knew you had to go talk to this person at the coffee shop who was the wildflower expert. And if you were a bike rider, you had to go talk to so-and-so over at this place because they knew everything about bikes. And it was a way that visitors could get a locals expertise. The locals could feel like, oh man, they're actually stoked that I'm a mountain biker here, or a wildflower, or somebody who spots wildlife during hunting season can be taking people on wildlife tours in the summertime. So and celebrate what they're into. And then we also have annual convenings. And so we started it around all of our outdoor recreation enthusiasts and organizations. We brought our land managers in and essentially had everybody introduce themselves to all of the other groups, talked about their projects, talked about their needs. And ultimately what came out of it was groups started working together that didn't even know that they existed. Land managers were now aware of these groups' wants and needs, so they could start working together on it. And it really tied the community together. We want to do that with the arts community, and we also want to do that with the history community as well, and just continue to get that feedback from those people that are passionate about those things, about what they need. Also, if you're trying to build community around any of your assets, and again, say you're not even an outdoor rec community, say you're pushing the arts and music, say you're pushing, whatever it is, get the kids interested in it. As soon as you get kids into things, the adult support will follow. And we are doing this. We started this with our NICA mountain bike team. And so this is middle and high school kids that are, it's about more kids on bikes, and then they do go out and compete. But it started with 5 kids. We now have 20 kids. Their parents are involved. All of them have bought bikes where they weren't even bike owners before. And now they're getting their friends involved. And so when the Enduro mountain bike race happens in the springtime, we now have volunteers for it. And the kids compete. And it looks great that a ton of locals are competing and getting on the podium with all of these other visitors that are coming to this event. And this is the same way with our junior rodeo, our disc golf. I mean, we get Boys and Girls Club involved in everything. OHV camps, art camps, disc golf camps, bike camps, and rock climbing camps, which is the newest thing that's developing out here, where this is a group that is starting to develop community. And it's amazing to watch it grow, because they came out of the gates hot, wanting to, really tackle some big things. And I was like, hey, get the community support behind it, and you will have everything you need to go ahead and accomplish all these big goals. And they're doing that. And we're developing routes all over the county for beginners all the way up to experts. Another thing I'm proud of is our mural program. We're starting to see young artists contribute and submit design ideas, which is awesome. And they're great ideas, but they don't have the polished skill sets to actually scale that up into a mural. And so what we're doing is we're pairing in a mentorship type way the mural artists that we've hired in the past to paint these murals, to partner with these young artists to teach them their skills, to show them how to become mural artists, coloring, shading, all of these finer things that they're not teaching in school while they remove art programs. Well, we're connecting experts with our kids and investing in them, and hopefully they'll be the next crop of our mural artists. We also have had, because we just recently lost it, unfortunately, Shellraiser Music Festival, which was a 3-day music festival in McGill. We got hit up all the time. You guys do music out there? That's so weird that you've got such a big festival out in the middle of nowhere. And it kind of made me realize that if you only do music once a year, you're not really a destination for music. So we started a free summer concert series where that park that's getting the major remodel into the amphitheater, we're now programming it prior to that project starting, of making it the community living room where people feel comfortable coming down, putting out blankets, bringing your own beer and snacks. We have food trucks, we have cornhole boards, but it just makes it to where, oh, you guys do music year round. Okay, you are a music destination. So things like that, and hopefully that inspires our young musicians to pick up guitars and drums and start playing and forming bands, and then they're now our opening bands for future concert series. Almost done here, guys. Thank you so much for being patient. Things just kind of kept falling into place. When we looked at all of those SNPLMA projects with all of the trail expansion, we really had to take a look at what is our county going to look like 5 years from now when all of these projects are done. How are these trails going to interact with our neighborhoods, with our schools, with our parks? Is there going to be any gaps in that? And so we got a grant from the National Park Service. It was called River Trails and Conservation. And we did a full countywide asset mapping and gap analysis where we plotted all of those trails, all of the neighborhoods, the parks, the schools, everything, and all of the trails to come, and then looked at where were gaps that, if and when development starts happening, could people be cut off from their recreation? Could connectivity be cut off? Could access be cut off? And then we went ahead and prioritized those into, these are things that we need to focus on next. When all of these other projects are done, our next project is preserving this corridor, is creating this trail from here to here. And so the goals were, preserving access for outdoor rec, promoting some of our outlying communities as hubs, and putting in the infrastructure for them to be hubs to branch out throughout the rest of the county, developing year-round recreation, solidifying our partnerships, and preserving our dark skies. Now, I'm not going to show the entire map because it's so overwhelming, but what this is here is the yellow areas are our main trail system areas and where all of those trails are getting developed. You can see residential, you can houses and things like that around Ely. What we did is we identified 3 urban trail centers, urban hubs that already have bathrooms, that already have investment going into them, that already have a positioning where it kind of triangulates the community and everybody can access them. So instead of building a whole bunch of new trailheads, we're going to focus on these 3 areas right here: the train depot, Heritage Park, and Broadbent Park. You can access our trails from there. All of the neighborhoods and everything can access those parks from there. And then let's focus on branching out from those areas into our connectivity. So we try to figure out what 3 parks are going to cover most of our community, have access to all of that public lands, and then what do we want to branch out to? And if you don't know the county, then this means nothing. This could be anything your county, but it goes to our outpost assets, our wilderness areas, campgrounds, lakes, state parks, you name it. These are the areas that we're trying to get people out to from those urban hubs. And then this just kind of verbalizes, we want a connector, or we want a station link at Garnet Hill where the train lets off, so that people can put their bikes on the train, drop off into a formal area that's a trailhead, and then jump on single track and ride all the way back to town. A link to Ice Plant Trail, a link out to Cummins Lake. You could add any of your priorities here, but what this did is told our land managers, told our city, told our county, who was all involved in this, that when all of these SNPLM projects are done and more grants open up, this is what we're focused on. There is no, what should we apply for? We're applying for this specifically because as a community, we came up with these goals for connectivity and keeping our access alive. And that is one of the horror stories of a town that's over touristed or booms too quickly and doesn't put the infrastructure in first, is you get cut off. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of houses in the way and locals are pissed off. So we are trying to prioritize projects that don't make sure that doesn't happen. After the asset mapping was done, we were awarded a destination development project with Travel Nevada, where they brought in their marketing team, their community development teams, and all of these consultants to take a look at not just where we are now, but where are we going to be 5 years from now when that asset map is relevant, and then take us from that point. Don't take us from right now. Take us from that point where we know we're going to be, and tell us where we need to go 10 years from now. And so that was an 8-month process with all of our community partners, and it resulted in a 10-year vision plan with actionable items of how to get to our goal. And so the vision is renowned as a place where outdoor adventure, especially trail-based recreation, is paired with unexpected experiences, connecting visitors and community, culture, famed dark skies, and abundant natural lands. You go to the community and you're like, hey, does this sound good? Absolutely, let's proceed. So the goal, though, how do we tell that this is working? We had 2 choices, all right? Do you want to double the amount of visitors that come out here, or do you want to double the amount of spending, the money that visitors leave while they're out here? And I think that's a pretty obvious choice. Do you want to be super crowded, or do you want more money with a similar amount of people? And so the goal was, and this is a little sneak peek here, when we did this in 2022, we were up to $60 million in visitor spending. And so in 2017, it was 40 million. Over the 6 years, annually, it grew to 60 million. But the goal 10 years from now, in 2032, we want it to be doubled, $121 million. Okay, well, how are we going to get more people to spend money out here? Here's how we do it. And this is what the plan said. Okay, open up those vacant buildings, put shops in them, create guided experiences, provide rentals of sports equipment that people might not be traveling with, really connect with the train depot, which is an economic hub. They've got gift shops, they're selling tickets, donations. I mean, money gets spent there. So stoke up those areas, boost up our shoulder season, so that your falls and your springs, essentially the mud seasons. And, again, fill those vacant buildings. But to fill those vacant buildings, you got to have people to shop there on days other than Friday and Saturday, you've got to have employees. You've got to have the people power to support opening up those buildings. So that, again, can't happen without some planned population growth. And then building the reputation of your community and things like this, where you're working with other communities and other regions and speaking and sharing this. This is building reputation. We're building reputation right now. So our target visitor, the person who, again, when we went back to the photos, the images, the stories, like, what are we putting out there? Well, it's to attract this person, the outdoor recreation lover who also enjoys learning while they travel. They enjoy Western history and heritage, diverse cultures, geology, dark skies, flora and fauna. If this sounds like the way you travel, if this is like what you like to do, you like to take a hike and then go check out some art or go hit up a museum, then you're our person. This is who we want to attract. And then so you go to the community, hey, if this person starts coming out here a lot, do you think there's going to be any conflicts? No, I think we're going to get along just fine because that sounds like us. So we were very happy to see that this target visitor was in alignment with why we're out here and why we stay out here. And they broke it down even further. And for those of you in marketing, demographics aren't as important anymore now as personas or psychographics. So instead of me caring how many kids you have or what your household income is, or if you're married, single, or split up, or it's complicated, whatever, I want to know what your mindset is when you travel. I want to know who you identify with. And that doesn't matter if you're 16, 36, or 86. If you identify as a road tripper or a nature lover or a cultural traveler, then you're going to like what we put out. I'm going to market to those people. The images that I use, the Facebook parameters that I set, all of that stuff is to go towards resonating with that mindset. If you're an outdoor adventurer, okay, you're going to love what we do because I'm going to be putting out a whole lot of content for you. If you're a motorsports enthusiast, if you like, the open road car races that we do, or OHV or dirt biking, man, we've got stuff for you. We're going to put that out and let you know that you are welcome here. And if you're a hook and bullet enthusiast, a fisherman or a hunter, here's what we got. Come on out. This is a sportsman paradise. And again, it doesn't matter what your age or income. We're now promoting with the images and the words and the video to personas, to mindsets. Now, I won't go over all of these and read these, but if you would like to see our destination development plan and dive into these next 4 columns, I'm happy to email it to you. Please use it and see how it could benefit your community. But they did give us some action items on how to develop compelling products and experiences. So all of these things down here are products or experiences we don't currently have that they are recommending that it would be good to go ahead and develop, and that would increase our desirability. There was suggestions on how to develop visitor infrastructure. I mean, we desperately need more lodging and RV and campgrounds in the summertime where we're absolutely slammed. In the wintertime, not as much, but in the summertime, we're leaving money on the table by not having lodging available to people that are now wanting to come out. Repainting your downtown, incentivizing facade improvement, things like that. So in a destination development plan, we now have actionable items on what infrastructure we need. We have actionable items on how to be a better tourism bureau. So what do we need to have stronger capacity as a visitor center? Are there positions and employees that we need? Is there expanding our convention center? What do we need as a tourism bureau to do better at our job? And then what kind of marketing and promotion should we be doing to go ahead and add strength? And, it just giving those suggestions there. And I can't stress enough how nice it is to not have a strategic plan that says, oh, here's what we like, but to actually have an action plan. I'm an action plan person. I'm a list person. I need goals to check off, and this provides this to us. So now I go back to my board every month. I meet with my marketing team, and I'm like, how are we checking these off? Or here's what we're doing to check these off. And it very much keeps us on task. So in closing, kind of where are we at now on this date? We see 5 million visitors, okay? About 500,000 spend the night in room tax reporting rooms, About 500,000 just passed through Gas and Go on their way to the next place. And then about 250,000 are staying in dispersed camping, national park, non-room tax reporting. So what we're focusing on is that 500,000, that 500,000 that are just gassing and going. And we're putting materials in gas stations, in the grocery stores, in areas where the people that are not stopping and going downtown purposefully are going to, and then we're capturing there and then hoping to get a room night out of them. We have a project with the International Mountain Bike Association. It's a signage project in support of all of this trail expansion. But what's great about it is it's not just directional signage and maps, it's actually informational signage where we tell the story of our community, our Shoshone history and culture, our flora and fauna. It's all using the infrastructure and backbone of our trail system to talk about our cultural identity and our contributions to the country. We are starting to open up new businesses and new events are happening, which is always great to see. The downtown street remodel, which I was promised 7 years ago, is finally starting to happen next summer, which is going to be great. And the White Pine Main Street Association is starting their downtown facade improvement incentive program, which we financially have supported, where fresh coat of paint, signage, awnings, things like that to try to make the outside of the buildings look a little bit better. We just finished a video project with Giant Bicycles where they're telling the story of our community while launching an iconic gravel ride. And so wait for that video to be launched. It's going to have international distribution, and that's going to follow up with a field pocket guide of all of our other gravel bike riding routes. We just had an artist in residence out in Great Basin National Park. If you haven't been out there, you may also notice that the imagery of national parks are very heavy: Yellowstone, Yosemite, Arches, Glacier. But you don't see anything Great Basin. You don't see dark skies. You don't see bristlecone pines or our Arches or Lehman Caves. So we invited Katie Ream out, who, check her out. Go to her work is amazing. I'm so excited to see it. But she spent a week in Great Basin National Park and is going to be producing work inspired by that visit out. And you're going to start seeing that now, getting our national park out there. And the right people are wanting to move back. It is happening. We are not just getting any old person. We are filtering out the week when that 4-hour drive, and everybody who is out here, moving out here, is stoked to get involved. They're happy to be out here. They love the lifestyle that we're providing, but we just do not have the houses. We need houses so desperately. And that is our teachers, our nurses, our BLM biologists, our county officials. Like, there are good paying jobs. And then you have all the mine jobs as well. So if you know anybody who can build houses and wants to come on out and enjoy this White Pine quality of life, please let me know. Because that is ultimately what we're working for, and we are almost there. So thank you again for listening. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to share our story. It has been a community-driven effort, and I cannot stress enough the community in this county and how they come together to make things happen. So if you want to get a hold of me, my email address is right there, nevada.net. All of our social media is at Visit Ely, Nevada. And then if you want to follow one of my side projects on Instagram, it's Nevada Gravel Project. And that's just all my bike packing and adventure cycling routes. So I would love to connect with you. I would love to have you out in White Pine County. Please hit me up if you're ever out in this direction.